I'm here to accept responsibility for this. I'm not asking to shift the blame to anyone else, or to any external force or anything else.
Did you have any contact with Ms. Cordova? Anyone in your office have any contact with Ms. Cordova?
I did.
That statement?
I did.
You spoke to Ms. Cordova after the...
I didn't speak to her. We exchanged some text messages, mostly for me to express my abject apologies for how she got dragged into this.
Have you ever spoken to her before?
No. But, yes. We had exchanged some perfunctory direct messages, but there wasn't. We had never spoken.
Secretary of State, did you speak to Secretary of State Clinton yourself?
I have not. And I just look. My wife is a remarkable woman. She's not responsible for any of this. This was visited upon her. She's getting back to work, and I apologize to her very deeply.
Congressman, how can you listen to
We'll have to make that determination. I mean, I'm here to express my apologies. I'm here to take responsibility. But you know, beyond that, look, my constituents have to make the determination. If it's up to them. If they believe that this is something that means that they don't want to vote for me, I'm going to work very hard to win back their trust and to try to persuade them that this is a personal failing of mine, that I've worked very hard for my constituents for a very long time, very long hours, and that nothing about this should reflect in any way on my official duties or on my oath of office.
reflect on your judgment, sir?
I'm sorry, sir?
Reflect on your judgment?
I'll leave that for people to. I certainly use bad judgment here. That's for sure. And if someone wants to draw that conclusion, I can't stop them. I'm here to accept responsibility for some very bad decisions.
These were young girls, very young, at 21 years old. Does that bother you that the young?
I don't know the exact ages of the women, and they.
Enough to be your children.
I don't know the exact ages of the women, and I don't know if you do. I'm going to respect their privacy, but they were all adults, at least to the best of my knowledge. They were all adults, and they were engaging in these conversations consensually.
But if you don't know how old they are, how do you know they're adults?
Well, all I know is what they publish about themselves in social media. Someone could theoretically have been fibbing about it, and that's a risk.
Did anyone in your staff ask any of these women to lie for you?
No.
Are you surprised by the reaction?
No.
Are you surprised by the reaction that your colleagues have had about this issue? There's been a deafening silence from members of the New York delegation and other people who have not stepped forward while you were trying to claim your innocence.
Look, I wasn't telling the truth. I had done something that was dishonorable. I had lied. I don't begrudge anyone for not leaping to my defense in that circumstance. This was, you know, this isn't anyone else's fault. This isn't anyone else didn't demonstrate their bad judgment or their mistakes. This was me. I did it, and I take responsibility for that, and I'm not looking to point blame or share responsibility with anyone.
So what's your next step in building the trust that you're building in the district?
Well, I'm going to go back to work, and I'm going to try to convince them that this was a personal failing that is an aberration from which I've learned. And all I can do is just keep doing what I've done, which is work very hard every day. There wasn't anything about this I would say that changes my ability or my record of getting bills passed or filling potholes or fulfilling community service. This was a personal failing, and I hope that they see it that way. And I don't begrudge them. If they see it as such a personal failing, they wouldn't vote for me. That's their decision, and I'm going to have to work very hard.
Congressman, members of Democratic leadership called on Mark Foley and called on Chris Lee to resign. Do you see any hypocrisy in the fact that you've not been called on to resign? Do you see any distinction between their two situations in yours?
Well, I don't want to get into anyone else's situation, but I can tell you about mine, and it's one that I regret, that didn't have to do with my government service per se and had to do with a personal weakness. But, you know, people can draw their own conclusions about that. But I'm not resigning, and I'm going to try very hard to go back to work a better person and a better man, and I'm going to try to be a better husband, too.
Can you explain on that to today?
She was very unhappy. She was very disappointed, and she told me as much. And she also said that she loved me, and said we were going to get through this, but she deserves much better than this, and I know that.
Can you explain what led to today? Why here? Why come out now and say it? What was the process leading up to now?
Well, look, my primary concern about the entire incident to begin with was my concern about some of these relationships that I had becoming public. And it seems that what I had done by denying the original action had only served to make things worse and only served to lead to people being asked longer, tougher questions. It is really true that the smarter, better thing to do would just be to tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may, even if they came to this place. And that was a mistake, and that's why I'm here.
Social media is characterize a bit what you did. Did you cheat? Was this a frat boy antic? Are you addicted to online?
I'll leave it to someone else. I mean, all I can do is give you the facts as I've laid out in my statement. I know I never met these women, and I know I never really had much desire to, and to me it was almost a frivolous exchange among friends that I don't think I made an important enough distinction about how hurtful it was and how inappropriate it was, and I certainly do.
Social media is a realm where certitude, as you say, is not something that you can rely on. How do you know that these women are not underage, or these women are not truthful about their own self?
Of course, no one ever knows that, but I know that I never had any intention of having any interaction with underage women, and no information that I have now shows that I did. But yes, whenever you engage with anyone, and that's always true in social media, that you're relying upon their characterizations, and I took them at those characterizations.
They tell you they were.
Congressman,
21 is
are you at all concerned about any action being taken against you?
Look, I am sorry, and I continue to be, but I don't see anything that I did that violated any rules of the House. I don't see anything that I did that certainly violated my oath of office to uphold the Constitution. I engaged in inappropriate online conversations with people that included, photographs, and it was a mistake to do that. But I don't believe that I did anything that violates any law or any rule.
Sexting complete strangers. Were you worried that you were going to get caught at some point?
I didn't.
Is that part of the appeal of it?
No, I didn't have the sense that they were complete strangers. These were people that I had developed relationships with online, and I believe that we had become friends. But that was clearly a mistake, and I clearly regret that.
young enough to be your daughters.
Yes.
It's women.
Yes. No, we had. I mean, I don't know her, and I still don't really know her. She was a follower who we had cursory direct message contact that she was having trouble with some people on that were tweeting about her and giving her a hard time because they were few. Me, and it was a mistake, and I just want to make it very clear, of all the, there are a long list of people that I harmed here, but this poor woman who was one of them as well, and I deeply regret that she got dragged into it.
Your Twitter account? Like the perils of social media for public officials. Would you suggest that all public officials remove their Twitter account?
No, I suggest that, not that people stop engaging with their constituents via social media, but not do dumb things like this that are dishonest to their families, that are deceitful to the press when they're asked about them, to not do things like this. There's nothing inherently wrong with social media. There's nothing inherently wrong with these outlets. What I did was a mistake.
You're going to shut down your Twitter account?
In Seattle after this first vote, to either coach her or to encourage her not to come clean as well?
At no time did I or any member of my staff try to do anything to cover anything up. She did reach out to me and express how she'd been set upon, and I expressed my apologies to her, but there was no coaching of any sort going on, and it was basically me saying what I've said here today, which is how deeply sorry I am for what happened.
Because these women were admired, Congressman?
No, my staff has never had any contact from them. My staff did not know the actual story here. I had missed them as well. They only heard the full story kind of late this afternoon as I was getting ready to come over here. They've worked extraordinarily. They're another group of people that I have let down, but they knew nothing, and I deeply regret putting them into the circumstance of having to defend me when I knew myself.
Younger admirers of yours. Was there anything predatory about your behavior?
Look, the women that I have been in contact with without violating their privacy, they're not uniformly young women. I don't know their ages, but the people that I've had these engagements with on Facebook are not young per se.
You think that lying for more than a week, trying to cover up, blaming other people constitutes a violation of your oath of office?
I am deeply sorry that I lied about this, but at the end of the day, I lied because I was embarrassed. I lied because I was ashamed of what I had done and didn't want to get caught. But did I violate the Constitution of the United States by lying about posting a Twitter post? I certainly don't think so, and I haven't spoken to anyone who did. But if people want to say that this is a violation of my oath because I sent a Twitter that I regretted and I lied about it, then obviously people are entitled to that viewpoint. Yes, ma'am.
Did you promise anything to these women?
I don't believe I'll use it the same way. That's for sure. And I deeply regret the way I've used it to date. But for my use of Twitter, I mean, it's something that I found useful, and Facebook is a way to get out the message. But I certainly wouldn't obviously do the things that I have done that led me to this place. Of course I would. Of course I would. No, I did not. I did not.
Will you help to support Harlem's love child?
Yes. They were inappropriate. They were part of consensual, exchanges of emails, and I don't want to violate the privacy of the women who were involved, but it was clearly a mistake and one that I deeply regret. Thank you.
Were you fully erect?
What made you decide?
Were you fully erect or were you capable?
7-term Congressman Anthony Weiner standing up at that podium for just about half an hour, taking question after question after question from members of the media, essentially saying this, that he lied to his wife, he lied to his constituents, he lied to members of the media, that photograph, that lewd photo, was in fact sent from him, intended to be a direct message to that woman in Seattle. Instead, it was tweeted out, and that is how this whole thing began. A couple of other notes I took. He did admit to engaging in multiple inappropriate conversations, all of this over social media, all of this with women who he was led to believe were of age, 18 and older. He mentioned in total 6 women over the course of the last 3 years. He said that his wife, who, by the way, he has just married in the last year, in fact, President Clinton married them. She works at the State Department under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She was aware of some of these inappropriate relationships prior to their marriage, but according to Congressman Weiner just now, did not know until this morning that it was her husband who posted the twit pic from 2 Fridays ago. A couple quotes that stood out to me. He said, quote, "I haven't told the truth and have done things I deeply regret." Also, quote, "I regret what I've done and I am not resigning." Wolf Blitzer, I'm sure you have been watching this thing right along with me, right along with many, many people who've been watching CNN. And Wolf, it was you with whom he spoke last Wednesday, you to whom he said, "This wasn't me."
Yeah, he was clearly lying, not just to his friends and his family, but he was lying to all of us because I asked him several questions, and he now admits he didn't tell us the truth when I asked him specifically, did you send that picture to that woman in Washington State, that young college student? He said no, absolutely no. And that obviously he's now acknowledging was a lie. When I said, what about other pictures? Did you send other pictures? I said, you knew if those were your underpants, for example. you know, he came up with a whole explanation about, you know, photos can be doctored. Sometimes you send stuff from one account